Good morning, my magnificent mathematicians. I am super excited to be with you this morning. We are going to have so much fun learning more about math and growing our brains. Today, let's work on our shapes and review quadrilaterals. A quadrilateral is any shape with 4 sides. And we're going to work through a sorting game and decide who the VIP quadrilateral is. VIP means very important person. To do that, I'm going to need my handy dandy magic board. Now, the first quadrilateral we're going to investigate today is the trapezoid. Now, a trapezoid is any quadrilateral with at least one pair of parallel sides. So anytime you see arrows on the opposite sides of a shape, it means that the sides are parallel to each other. And parallel means that if those sides were lines that went on forever, they would never touch each other. So in a trapezoid, at least one pair of its sides are parallel. Let's look at another shape. I need a kite. Kites are very unique shapes. First, they don't have any parallel sides. They have exactly one pair of opposite congruent angles. If we folded this in half, we would see that the angles on these two sides have the same measure. When you draw diagonals on the kite, the diagonals are perpendicular to each other. And last, a kite has 2 pairs of consecutive congruent sides. The little tick marks show us that. Now, the only feature that the kite has in common with the trapezoid is that it has 4 sides. They don't share any other characteristics. So that's why the kite goes over here on the left side. Now, the next quadrilateral I need is a parallelogram. The parallelogram has 2 pairs of parallel sides marked with arrows. Opposite sides are both parallel and congruent. Now remember, congruent just means the same size. Also, the opposite angles are congruent. And the last cool fact about parallelograms is that their diagonals bisect each other. Okay, so here's the big question. Is this parallelogram a kite or is it a trapezoid? What do you think? Well, it's not a kite because kites don't have parallel sides. And a trapezoid, we know, has at least one pair of parallel sides. And our parallelogram does too. So it's a special trapezoid. I'm going to place the parallelogram below the trapezoid because they're in the same family. Okay, the next quadrilateral that we need is a rectangle. Now, the rectangle has opposite sides parallel and congruent. The opposite angles are not only congruent, they're right angles. The diagonals bisect each other and they're congruent. So this rectangle has every characteristic of the parallelogram, which means it's a very special trapezoid and a special parallelogram. So we're going to place it with its family. Okay, our next quadrilateral is the rhombus. Great, the rhombus has all the characteristics of the parallelogram. The opposite sides are parallel, the opposite angles are congruent, but the rhombus is extra special because all 4 sides are congruent. The diagonals are perpendicular to each other and they bisect the opposite angles. The rhombus is a special parallelogram, which makes it a special trapezoid. But it's different from the rectangle because it doesn't have right angles in the corners. So I'm going to place it under the parallelogram and next to the rectangle. Okay, we need one last quadrilateral, and this will be our square. Okay, the square has all the characteristics of the rhombus and the rectangle, which means it has all the characteristics of the parallelogram and the trapezoid. That makes our square extra, extra special. The square gets to go under the rectangle and the rhombus because it follows the traits of both families. And because the square is so very special, we're going to name this shape our VIP. It helps me to think about placing these shapes like they are going to, say, a fancy party. The square gets like this awesome VIP pass. She can go hang out with the rectangles, she can go hang out with the rhombuses, she can go to the parallelogram party room, and all of these shapes can go to the quadrilateral party because they all have 4 sides. I hope you had fun today naming our VIP. And that's all the time we have. So I hope you have an amazing rest of the day, and I'll see you next time on Rise and Shine. Bye.